مريني
ولك ما يمر لكم ظالم، ربي يوفقكم، ربي يعمي عليكم، ربي يسر اموركم. اشرب يا سيدي ان شاء الله صيام الله. انا اللي فاضل يشرب يا عيوني يا حبيباتي اخواتي وعيوني، وانا ام كل الابد يا مين يا عين. والله شعرانك تعبان، والله
الله يشفي لك يا
الله يجبر خطركم، الله يوفقكم، الله يعمي عليكم، ييسر امركم.
نعاد عليك يا حاج.
تقبر عيوني ان شاء الله، الفاطر يشرب يا قلبي، ولك تقبر قلبي، والله انا من غير صوره مصوره.
Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today is Friday, August 23rd, 2013, and I'm Darko. Alright, I just want to put a quick little alert out there. If you've never seen GGN or watched Global Government News videos, this could be a lot of truth hitting you very fast in a short period of time. So for those that are regular GGN viewers, thanks for joining me and thanks for your support. But also send this video to people like friends and family who you'll hear say, that Assad, that evil Assad, you know, that's that dictator, you know, basically they're completely brainwashed for the Zionist agenda. Send them this video because they're gonna wanna see it. News of chemical weapons attack in Syria published one day before massacre even happened. So this is coming from the Voice of Russia. So it says here that one day before there was a video uploaded on chemical weapons use near Damascus in Syria. The evidence shows that the terrorists massacred people, then recorded the scenes to deceive the world, but they gave themselves away. They said the terrorists in Syria uploaded this video of the crimes in Damascus on August 20th, 2013, then blamed the Syrian government for the attack early on August 21st, 2013. It says even if we regard the chemical attack as taking place at 3:30, it is impossible to take the film of the scene and upload these tens of videos. This shows that the terrorists spread or prepared and organized all the scenes beforehand, then accused the Syrian regime of the massacre that the terrorists carried out. So a lot of crazy stuff going on in Egypt. You have guys acting like they're protesting to bring the Muslim Brotherhood back, so a lot of deception going on. Then you have this article that is being circulated on alternative news media. I've covered this before periodically, from January 30th, 2013. This was actually originally posted here, Yahoo News India. So I'm surprised Yahoo even posted this, but maybe it's because it's from India. U.S. backed plan to launch chemical weapon attack on Syria and blame it on the Assad government. Says here the bomber machine gave green light signal to chemical weapons attack plan in Syria that could be blamed on the Assad government and in turn spur international military action in the devastated country, leaked documents have shown. The new report contains an email exchange between two senior officials at British-based contractor Britam Defense showed a scheme approved by Washington. As per the scheme, Qatar would fund the rebel forces in Syria to use the chemical weapons, says the Daily Mail. Now this is important because I saw this article too. I was trying to find an article about the UK government, the British government actually saying, oh yeah, you know, yeah, we supply the Syrian government with chemical weapons. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I know that they're supplying these rebels they call the opposition, which are terrorists, chemical weapons and training them, but the Syrian government. And I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden I saw another article saying that they were going to sell them chemical gear, these opposition forces. They were going to sell them or arm them or equip them with these chemical hoods and chemical clothing, basically. So I'm like, okay, a chemical attack is coming. But I didn't find that article. But what I did find was this, about the Daily Mail being sued, £100,000 over Syrian chemical weapons storage, libel. So they got hit for libel. So tell me the truth, it's libel. Damages paid to the defense company for article wrongly linking two executives with sales of weapons to Syria. They have apologized and paid the money and damages to a London defense firm, Britain Defense, wrongly linked with alleged chemical weapons plot in Syria. So they have falsely accused the two of its executives of conspiring in a nefarious and illegal plot in the Middle Eastern state for enormous financial reward. Britain to supply Syrian opposition with anti-chemical devices. This is from July 16th. British government is offering non-medical equipment for protection against contaminating gases to the opposition Free Syrian Army, says Hague on Tuesday. to protection against nerve gas, treatment medications, and devices for detection of chemical arms. It says here that the materials are going to be dispatched, but it says here for the existence of strong evidence about the Syrian regime using chemical agents. And we have this: Lebanese army seizes truck loaded with Syrian protective mask. This is from today. August 23rd, Army intelligence units found on Friday additional quantities of sarin gas respiratory protective mask with full gear in the house of the arrested, whatever these guys are, I guess rebels. So the new number of masks has reached more than 2,700. Earlier on Thursday, a Lebanese army unit arrested a man driving a pickup truck loaded with a large quantity of protective mask, the army said in a statement. During the investigation, the man confessed to his crime and claimed that he bought the mask from arms dealers in Lebanon to transfer them to the conflict-hit Syria. Then we have this. This is not exactly new, but I'm going to include it in this report. The U.S. is channeling chemical weapons to al-Qaeda in Syria. Obama's a liar and a terrorist. So who has crossed the red line? It says here Obama and John Kerry are supporting a terrorist organization on the State Department list. So it says here that they're setting the stage for a humanitarian intervention by casually accusing the Syrian president for killing his own people. Yeah, saying following a deliberative review, our intelligence community assesses that the Assad regime has used chemical weapons, including the nerve agent sarin, on a small scale against the opposition multiple times this year. The WMD saga modeled on Iraq based on fabricated evidence is now unfolding. Coming from the White House, Obama has given notice to Assad of enormous consequences for having crossed the red line by allegedly using chemical weapons. So this is the same kind of red line, ticking bomb, cartoonish picture or anagram that was presented to the United Nations by Zionist Israel's Netanyahu, right? So we know this is basically the U.S. being pushed by Israel, but U.S. has their own interests as far as natural gas pipelines flowing into Europe instead of Gazprom from Russia. We'll get into that. U.S. defense contractors training Syrian rebels to handle chemical weapons. The U.S. funding training supposedly aimed at teaching rebels to secure chemical weapons stockpile. Remember, if the Assad government uses them, that's crossing the red line. If the rebels use them, that's crossing a red line. If the Assad government just moves them away so they don't get in the hands of the rebels, that's crossing the red line. So you see how many options they leave the Syrian people. This is from last December 2012. This is what we've been covering at GGN. So it's all building up now. According to CNN, the European allies, the U.S. are using defense contractors to train Syrian rebels on how to secure chemical weapons stockpiles in Syria, according to a senior U.S. official and several senior diplomats. The training that's being funded by the U.S. is basically going on inside Syria as well as neighboring Turkey and Jordan. Involves how to monitor and secure stockpiles and handle weapon sites and materials. Remember this: Syrian army seizes sarin cylinders from militants in Hama. This was from June 2nd of this year. They seized 2 cylinders of the nerve agent sarin during an operation in the city of Hama. Here we go again. Turkey seizes sarin in homes of anti-Syrian militants, reports say. Turkish security forces confiscated 2 kilograms of the nerve agent sarin after raiding the homes of militants that are being funded by the United States taxpayers from the terrorist al-Nusra Front. You're funding al-Qaeda to carry these out these atrocities that are happening. They show you little pictures of little children and civilians in that basically, in the hospital and coughing, or these numbers about them being dead. That's the United States. That's regular people, taxpayers. You're funding al-Qaeda to do this. So you need to stand up and start speaking your mind that this is wrong. Russia says militant sites in Damascus' eastern suburbs launched chemical attack. Foreign Ministry of Russia said that the militant sites in Damascus' eastern suburbs launched the chemical rocket. So it says here that they fired Wednesday a handmade rocket similar to the one that the terrorists fired on March 19th on to Khan al-Sal. The rocket contains chemical substances which we have not identified yet, but I have to say it's probably going to be nerve sarin gas, right? They also said the immediate fierce propaganda against the Syrian government asserts that there is a pre-planned provocation action going on. So it says here that he called for a professional, objective investigation into what happened. U.S. avoids red lines after Syrian chemical claims. The U.S. refused to set new red lines for Syria Wednesday as claims a horrific chemical arms strike. So, and this is what I'm talking about. You're going to have all of these people, Americans, that have not followed this. They're too busy watching all kinds of crap news and entertainment. They're going to say, what? Besides Assad being a dictator. And those damn Muslims, let them just kill each other. Let's keep out of this, when the whole time we're actually involved in it. But the same rhetoric that you hear about the United Nations, which has no legitimate authority over any sovereign nation, you'll hear people on comment boards and talk about, oh, the United Nations, haha, what a joke. They don't do anything. They're a bunch of cowards. Well, they shouldn't exist. So why are you even inferring that they should? And then they'll say they use the same mentality for this. Oh, Obama's red line means nothing because he doesn't back it up. It's just like, well, he's funding Al Qaeda. He's funding terrorists and killing people, innocent people. He's invading sovereign nations using terrorists, and you're funding that. So this whole red line crap, they actually will play along with it. They're completely brainwashed fools. U.S. has strong, it's called engineer consent, and that's how they do it. U.S. has strong indications Assad used chemical weapons. Russia says rebel false flag. They said here that it was clearly by the government, says a senior administration official. But they said here they want to get all the facts and determine what steps they need to be taken. U.S., well, they already have it planned before this even happened. U.S. shrugs off Syrian opposition's chemical weapons use and presses for war. They continue to press for war against Syria yesterday, dismissing UN investigator's statement that Western-backed opposition forces, not the Syrian government, had used chemical weapons. And White House propaganda minister Jay Carney rejected this by saying that we find it highly likely that any chemical weapons use that has taken place in Syria was done by the Assad regime. It says, we are highly skeptical of any suggestions that the opposition used chemical weapons. Well, they couldn't because they're funding that and training them to do this. We just covered that the Syrian rebels have everything to benefit from this chemical weapons attack because they're getting their asses handed to them by the Syrian government, and they are desperate and they want help, and this is their way to get help. And at the same time, seem to be humanitarians. Syrian rebels control alleged chemical attack site, says government cannot grant secure entry. So this is just even more evidence that this was not done by the Syrian government. It says Syria has no control over the site where the alleged chemical attack took place. And also, well, they won't allow UN inspectors to go in there, which just happened to be there on Monday. They just went in there for the last chemical attack to start the inspections, the UN that is, on Monday. Then all of a sudden this happens. Syrian opposition preventing chemical attack probe. It goes on in here, it says, there have been no signs by the opposition that they're going to allow UN experts to go in there and investigate. Well, I don't think they will, since they've been abducting and kidnapping UN peacekeepers and investigators. UN Council seeks clarity on Syria chemical weapons claim. They want clarity on the claims that the Syrian troops used the weapons. Now, this is important because Obama said we can't do anything until we get UN approval by UN mandate. So again, we're going to the global government for this. Well, if their mercenary terrorist forces, known as the Syrian Opposition or Free Syrian Army, won't allow them to investigate, well then, what's going to happen? Images of death in Syria, but no proof of chemical attacks. And now this is from the New York Times. Now they're backpedaling, saying there was no chemical attack. George Galloway of the UK says Israel gave Al-Qaeda chemical weapons to use in Syria. He said if there's been any use of nerve gas, it's the rebels that used it. Well, we've already kind of shown that it most likely would be. In his theory, Israel gave them the chemical weapons. Obama tells CNN key decisions nearing on Syria and Egypt. Asked whether the U.S. government is now facing a more abbreviated time frame on key decisions in Egypt and Syria, Obama repeatedly gave one-word response, yes. U.S. refines military options ahead of Syrian strikes. Officers at the Pentagon on Thursday were updating target lists for possible airstrikes on the range of Syrian government and military installations. France and Turkey push for intervention after latest Syria allegations. Lack of evidence doesn't stop them from calling for action. Australian military planners in Washington are at work on Syrian war plans. War looms. Hundreds of American troops and CIA operatives and special forces that have been trained in Jordan and that have now entered Syria, including Israeli soldiers, 300 men. It says here the second would have joined on August 19th after August 17th. Brzezinski says Saudi Arabia and Qatar, their Western allies, orchestrated Syrian crisis. Kind of odd headline. Washington worries grow over Saudi ties. It said here with what's going on in Egypt, they're increasingly worried about the crisis affecting U.S.-Saudi ties. It's about refugees and resources. EU keen to tap into Israel's gas supply via compete with Russia. Turkey and Israel agreed to start works on pipeline project. Egypt-Israel gas pipeline blown up in the Sinai. Please join me in part 2. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.